Somebody once said that one of the, if you like, injustices, but in any case, one of the stereotypes of at least the Western food world is that men are chefs and women are cooks. And women have typically played that role. Did you feel that at all growing up, that cooking was part of a woman's role as opposed to being a pro chef?
I guess, yeah, I did. I feel like, but in my family, sort of everyone cooked. It was just more
Your father cooked too?
But it was more like the women were the bosses. Interestingly.
Yeah.
Like most
Yeah.
of life.
Right.
There's a great Woody Allen line, when he's talking to the boy
Right.
that he puts to sleep. I think it's in Husbands and Wives, and he says, I'm the boss, and the kid says, wait a minute, I thought mommy was the boss. He said, no, mommy just makes all the decisions, but I'm the boss. And I love that line because I think it's very true for most households.
It was true, as I write in my book, about my family. My mother's a fabulous cook, and she was one of the people she was a college professor, so she bought the Julia Child book and went about doing something that you write about actually learning specific, very complicated things, kuliabak of salmon and beef Wellington and all that kind of stuff from it. And she taught the boys in her family to cook. There's 6 kids. She had 6 kids in 10 years, the way women of that generation still did. But she taught cooking just to the boys because she saw cooking as a liberating role of a kind. In other words, not as something that was imprisoning at all, but as a liberating role, but only liberating if it was widely shared. So the boys in our family were given, she taught us how to cook much more than the 4 girls who went on to become college professors. Now that I think about it.
That's interesting. I was thinking today about how it's interesting that the most successful movies about chefs have actually been about female chefs.
Babette's Feast.
Babette's Feast, mostly Martha, Julie and Julia. I mean,
Chocolat.
Chocolat, exactly.
Right.
Big Night is really the only.
Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. It's about a family.
That's
Ang Lee's
right.
biggest, in my book, that's
His
Ang
best
Lee's
movie,
best
yes.
movie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it just that isn't that interesting that even despite these kind of cultural ideas about women in the kitchen,
Because I think it's identifiable. I mean, the thing is that, we deal with this, by the way, on Top Chef all the time, and all the culinary world, the professional culinary world, is full of men, and yet most of the people who actually do the cooking in 90% of the food that gets prepared in our planet today is done by women. It's not a scientific number, but I bet I'm pretty damn close. And that dichotomy has to do, I think, with a couple of things. One, that cooking is really manual labor. It involves creativity and knowledge and talent and practice, surely, but
at heart, it's chopping onions.
and breaking down a side of beef.
Right, yeah.
I mean, if you've ever lifted a side of beef or attempted to, it's really heavy. And so when you're standing on your feet, and the hours are terrible. I mean, if you work in a professional kitchen and you've got your dinner rush, you're not home until 1, maybe 2 sometimes. And women get pregnant. And so it is something that lends itself, like construction work, to men more than women, and that's changing. You have April Bloomfield, you have from Alice Waters on down. You of course have these wonderful, amazing women who work as professional chefs. And whenever someone misleadingly calls me a chef, I always correct them, because a chef is a very technical term. It comes from the French military, and it means that you command a kitchen army of professional staff. I command an army of me, that's about it. And I don't want to be a chef, but it's a different thing when you have to cook every single day for your family. It's a different experience. And that's why I think professional chefs have a harder time, for instance, writing cookbooks, because it's harder to distill it into a simple thing for 4 mouths or 6, rather than, kitchen service of 350 or 100, say.